Demarco, Washington, 67, former municipal records clerk, parked his gray Ford Taurus near a closed warehouse on the city's east side. The meeting was arranged with Frank Doerty, a retired detective who had promised to give Demarco recordings related to an unresolved 2003 case. The warehouse district was deserted at that hour. Phone data later showed that Demarco waited inside his car for 12 minutes before two patrol officers arrived. Sergeant Lawrence Carroll, 42, and Officer Miguel Ramirez, 35. Their unit was not dispatched to that location. Both exited the vehicle and approached Demarco's car. The phone found at the scene contained an unfinished audio recording starting with Carroll's voice ordering, "Turn the cam off." A store owner across the street, Robert Hahn, had a surveillance camera directed toward the intersection. The footage captured the approach of two uniformed men, a short exchange, and the sound of glass breaking. One officer pulled Demarco from the driver's seat, while the other restrained him on the ground. The video showed Demarco throwing a small object toward the curb before being struck several times. The final frame recorded him motionless on the pavement at 22:23. EMS dispatch received a call 30 minutes later for an unresponsive male. Paramedics noted severe head trauma and multiple rib fractures. Demarco was transported to Grace Hospital and admitted in critical condition. Surgical notes confirmed skull fractures and internal bleeding consistent with assault. He was placed in a medically induced coma. No weapon was recovered. At 23:40, Officer Ramirez filed a report claiming resisting arrest and attempted assault. The document described the subject as aggressive, though no corroborating evidence supported the claim. The next morning, Captain Marcus Bradshaw, 49, newly appointed precinct commander, reviewed the file. Witnesses later recalled him addressing Carroll, "You were defending yourself." The case was logged as a routine incident without external notification. On November 24th, the hospital social worker located one emergency contact in Demarco's phone. "Darius, son. Do not call except emergency." The message reached a military liaison at Bagram Air Base, Afghanistan. Captain Darius, Washington, 37, Marine officer with 15 years of service, was informed that his father was hospitalized after a police altercation. The report described his condition as coma, critical. Darius had not spoken to his father since 2013. Their relationship ended after his mother's death and disputes about Demarco's investigations. Military colleagues described Darius as reserved, precise, and detached from personal matters. Upon receiving the call, he requested emergency leave to return home. His commanding officer, Colonel R.L. Spencer, denied it, citing that his final tour would end in 2 weeks. The conversation was documented in personnel logs. Request denied. Completion of service in 14 days. That night, Darius signed out from his quarters but failed to report for duty the following morning. Security logs showed him leaving the base perimeter in civilian clothes at 22:10 local time. Surveillance cameras recorded him boarding a contractor vehicle used for cargo transport. He carried only a duffel bag and personal identification. The Department of Defense later classified his status as absent without leave as of November 25th. Internal notes stated that his motive was family emergency, not authorized through chain of command. His disappearance triggered a standard military inquiry under Article 85. Back in Detroit, the police department maintained that Demarco had resisted arrest. The flash drive he had thrown toward the curb was recovered by a maintenance crew during a morning cleanup on November 25th. It was logged into property storage but not examined. Initial reports to Internal Affairs described the use of force as within departmental guidelines. Both officers remained on active duty. Medical updates from Grace Hospital indicated no neurological improvement. Dr. Lillian Strauss, attending neurosurgeon, noted on November 26th, patient remains unresponsive. Severe cranial injury. Prognosis poor. The hospital forwarded all records to the Detroit Police Department as part of the ongoing administrative review. At 18:05, Captain Marcus Bradshaw arrived with a department aide. He extended a hand. "Darius, Washington? Your father was a neighborhood hero. Shame that—" Darius did not respond. "How did this happen?" he asked. Bradshaw replied, "He attacked an officer." "They defended themselves," Darius said. My father is 67. Your officer is 35 and trained. You want me to believe that? Bradshaw's tone hardened. Investigation is ongoing. Don't interfere, soldier. The meeting ended. At 1900, Darius drove to his father's apartment on the east side, a rented unit in a 3-story block. Inside, he found one room organized as an archive. Pinned at the center of a corkboard hung a photo dated 1998. It showed a younger Bradshaw beside a white male identified in the caption as Antonio Rivero. Below the photo, lines connected to notes labeled Port Ops 2003, Riverfront, and Procurement. Demarco Washington had linked names, dates, and contract numbers. While cataloging the room, Darius located a locked drawer inside the desk. A key was taped beneath. Inside lay a VHS cassette marked Port Ops, November 2003, and a sealed envelope addressed in his father's handwriting. Darius, if you're reading this, they killed me. Sorry we didn't talk. I always loved you. The tape has the truth about why your mother died. It wasn't illness. He read the note twice, placed it in a plastic sleeve, and recorded time and date on a page torn from a ledger. For the first time since arriving, his hands shook briefly before he steadied them. His mother, Grace Washington, had died in 2006 when he was 22. The official cause was a heart attack. His father had called it stress. Now the statement implied direct harm. He searched the rest of the drawer. Letters to state and federal agencies dated 2004 to 2020, mostly returned with insufficient evidence stamps. Receipts for recorders and camera repairs. Prepaid phones. On a notepad he found an entry. Meeting Frank Doerty, November 23rd, 21:30 hours, warehouse. Darius circled it. At 20:45 he opened a folder labeled Contacts. It listed names, some crossed out, including Bradshaw, Rivero, and a prosecutor named Robert Kingsley. Handwritten margins read, still active and dangerous. Darius photographed each page with a timestamp app, stored copies on a new cloud account under an alias, and sealed the originals in a bag. He searched the apartment again for secondary hiding spots. Behind the refrigerator, he found a small metal box containing flash drives and microcassettes. He did not open them but labeled the container for later forensic review. A single sticky note inside read, Darius, trust Doerty. At 21:20 he dialed the number listed next to Doherty's name. No answer. He left a short message. This is Darius Washington. I need to speak with you about November 23rd. He then sent a text with a photo of the envelope bearing Doherty's name. Returning to the hospital at 22:10, Darius met the night shift nurse. Condition unchanged. Ventilated, comatose, vital signs stable. He requested all new lab results and signed a form authorizing digital copies to his email. Darius Washington sat at his father's desk. The VHS cassette labeled Port Ops, November 2003 was connected to a borrowed player. He started playback and began documenting timestamps. The footage, recorded with a handheld camera, showed the Detroit River port at night. A truck backed into a loading bay marked Authorized Personnel Only. In the foreground, a young uniformed officer appeared, later identified as Marcus Bradshaw, then a detective. Near him stood a white male matching the description of Antonio Rivero, later known as a crime figure linked to smuggling operations. Audio captured Demarco's whisper. November 15th, 2003, 23:47. Illegal cargo transfer. Bradshaw supervising. Rivero present. The video ended with headlights approaching and sudden camera movement. The next segment, apparently recorded later, showed Demarco in his kitchen speaking directly into the lens. His notes confirmed he had delivered copies to an FBI field office on December 3, 2003. The written log on the table included case file numbers. Demarco's narration stated that he had given testimony regarding a joint operation between certain officers and private contractors. He noted that 2 weeks later, an internal memo warned him of procedural violations. 3 months later, the evidence was listed as lost. A document on screen, dated March 10, 2004, confirmed the case closure due to unavailable exhibits. Further frames displayed mail correspondence from the city legal department. Termination notice dated April 2, 2004, citing improper use of city resources. The following pages showed threatening notes left on Demarco's car windshield. In his recorded commentary, he mentioned phone harassment and unidentified surveillance. A final part of the tape contained personal footage from 2006. Demarco spoke to the camera again, visibly older, voice subdued. He said, "Grace is dead. Doctors say heart, but yesterday 2 men came to her. I don't know what they did. She was afraid. They killed her." The camera panned to medical forms confirming death on June 12, 2006. Demarco's closing words were, "They want me silent, but I'll finish this." The tape ended at 2 hours, 12 minutes, and 19 seconds runtime. Darius stopped the playback. He sat motionless, then shut off the device. His expression remained fixed, but his hands tightened until blood showed at his knuckles. He wrote in his notebook, "Bradshaw, Rivero, Kingsley. 2003 to 2006 link confirmed." On December 2, 2021, Darius received notice that Officer Miguel Ramirez had been found dead in his home. The official statement cited suicide. The same day, Ramirez's widow contacted him after recognizing the surname from hospital reports. She met Darius in a parking lot and handed over her husband's notebook. "He wasn't suicidal," she said. "He was preparing to tell internal affairs that your father was set up." Inside the notebook, Darius found one phrase underlined twice: "Warehouse, 23rd, not an accident." Later that day, Darius met a shop owner, Mrs. Yoon Park, whose camera had recorded the beating. She gave him the original file stored on a separate card. The footage confirmed what Demarco's phone audio had captured: 2 officers, Carroll and Ramirez, approaching the car and using force. She signed a statement and handed over the recording for safekeeping. Using his father's damaged phone, Darius arranged a forensic recovery through a local specialist. Extracted fragments of messages revealed correspondence with Frank Doerty, former detective. One thread dated November 10, 2021 read, "Meeting confirmed, November 23, 2021, 21:30. Will bring recordings. Keep secure." This matched Demarco's note and supported the planned exchange interrupted by the assault. Through an address in his father's files, Darius located Doherty's residence in Dearborn Heights. On December 5, 2021, he met him. Doherty, 60, appeared ill, later confirming a terminal cancer diagnosis. The former detective provided a flash drive in a sealed envelope saying, "Your father collected this for 20 years. He trusted me to hold the copies." Darius asked what the files contained. Doherty said, "Wiretaps. Conversations between Bradshaw and a prosecutor named Robert Kingsley. Bradshaw isn't the boss. Kingsley gave the orders." They played one recording through a laptop. A male voice identified as Kingsley said, "Marcus, shut the old man up." Permanently, Doherty paused the file. "That's what started it," he said. Darius asked, "Where can I find Kingsley?" Doherty replied, "You can't. He's protected. Political contacts up to senators. The system covers him. You can't get him through court." Darius looked at the screen. "I wasn't planning to go through court," he answered. Through former service contacts, Darius acquired access to basic open-source surveillance tools and anonymized digital accounts. He collected public and private data, financial records, personal communications, and social media traces. Carroll's weakness appeared first. Internal messages showed repeated contact with a woman outside his marriage, also confirmed through hotel invoices and traffic camera data. Darius used controlled intrusion to copy a private messaging archive from Carroll's phone backup. Among the recovered audio notes was a short file recorded 1 week after the warehouse incident. Carroll saying to his partner, "The old man should have been killed, not crippled." Darius stored the file as cunitconfession.wav. On February 10, 2022, Darius mailed an unmarked envelope to Carroll's home. Inside were printed screenshots of the affair and a copy of the confession. 2 days later, Carroll's wife filed for separation. Colleagues later described him as distracted and drinking heavily. Darius monitored him for 3 weeks, noting increased bar visits and disciplinary complaints. In early March, he anonymously transferred the confession file to Internal Affairs via a temporary email. Carroll was placed on suspension pending review. On March 3, 2022, Darius observed Carroll leaving a downtown bar at 2 a.m., intoxicated, entering his car. He followed along a suburban road, maintaining distance. At 2:14, Darius accelerated ahead, forcing Carroll to swerve. The patrol vehicle struck a pole. Darius approached, confirmed the driver was alive but injured, and heard the words, "Who are you?" He answered, "The son of the man you killed." He then left the scene. Emergency records later confirmed Carroll survived, but suffered spinal trauma resulting in paralysis. The second phase involved Judge Victor Harrison. Darius traced his gambling habits through court security staff and payment logs. Harrison frequented private casinos operating without permits. Darius recorded entry footage using hidden cameras and matched it to the judge's vehicle registrations. On April 10, 2022, he forwarded the compiled material to the State Judicial Oversight Board using an anonymous drop. Within weeks, an inquiry was opened into unreported gambling activity by a sitting judge. Darius considered the phase complete. For Senator Leonard Pierce, Darius accessed leaked financial data from a developer consortium. Transactions indicated undeclared payments totaling $480,000 routed through shell accounts. Darius packaged the documentation with property transfer receipts and submitted it anonymously to a federal ethics office. In May 2022, the senator's office announced his withdrawal from committee leadership citing personal reasons. Captain Marcus Bradshaw became aware that someone was systematically dismantling his network. Internal memos revealed he had requested surveillance on possible leaks. On May 20th, he instructed his officers to locate Washington Sun. But Darius maintained operational discipline: no direct communication, no traceable devices, constant relocation. On June 5, 2022, Grace Hospital issued an update. Patient Demarco, Washington, age 67, deceased due to complications from traumatic brain injury. Time of death recorded at 6:48. Darius was present. He stood at the bedside for 12 minutes, recorded no words on video, then whispered, "I'll finish this, Dad. Sorry I didn't listen." He signed the death release and left the hospital without notifying the department. June 25, 2022, 23:40. Darius Washington entered Robert Kingsley's study after gaining entry through a side door at the prosecutor's residence. Kingsley was seated at his desk and said, "You're Washington's son. I knew you'd come. Let's talk." Darius produced a handgun and held it on Kingsley. After a long pause, Kingsley said, "I built an empire for 30 years. Your father was an obstacle, your mother too. Kill me and nothing changes. The system is bigger than people." Darius lowered the weapon, placed a small recorder on the desk, and played back a separate recording in which Kingsley discussed interference with investigatory materials. Darius said, "You're right. Killing you is too easy," he added, "but I'm not going to kill. I'll destroy everything you built." He left the residence with the recorder's copy intact, and without further physical confrontation. On October 12, 2023, at 11:06 a.m., Robert Kingsley was killed when an explosive device detonated as he sat in his vehicle outside a courthouse. The FBI assumed jurisdiction and categorized the event as a federal homicide. Forensic reports described a complex initiator compatible with military-grade components and noted an absence of traceable signatures or DNA linking the construction of the device to a single maker. Investigators listed multiple persons of interest and recorded motive and opportunity for several parties. The Bureau's open file included Darius among those identified for further inquiry because of prior contact and documented motive, while also noting evidentiary gaps. Darius had departed the United States on June 26, 2022, and established residence abroad under an assumed identity. U.S. military records show him administratively absent without leave beginning November 25, 2021. Federal investigative files reviewed in late 2023 list him as a person of interest due to motive and prior contact with Kingsley, but they also document a lack of admissible forensic evidence directly connecting him to the explosive device. No public indictment charging him with Kingsley's death had been filed as of December 2023. Under an assumed name, Darius lived in a small coastal town in Mexico and worked as an automotive mechanic at a local repair shop. He kept 2 personal mementos relocated from Detroit: a framed photograph of his parents when they were young, and 2 awards displayed on a shelf: his father's plaque inscribed "Best Worker 1999", and a military decoration inscribed "For Valor, Afghanistan 2015. On October 14, 2023, an unlisted number he used received a call. A woman identified herself as Janelle Brooks and said, "Darius Washington? My name is Janelle Brooks. My brother disappeared in Detroit 3 years ago. I found your name in Captain Bradshaw's records. They say you're the only one who can help." Police files confirmed a missing person report filed in 2020 for Brooks's brother. The report had been cross-referenced in materials assembled during the corruption inquiries. Darius placed the phone beside the photograph and the awards and told the caller he needed time to evaluate her request. He recorded one operational note that evening: "Objective change. Investigate missing persons linked to network."